You accused GM Daniel Naroditsky of cheating, but you didn't file an official complaint through FIDE before going public. Why?
I didn't accuse, as I already mentioned. I didn't accuse. And FIDE itself, FIDE themselves, they do not. They always said that it's a chess.com business, and they never touch this issue. So it is. So if you have a certain suspicions or certain request, you have to. Write it to chess.com. So that's what I did. But also, of course, I also a year ago offered it to FIDE, as I mentioned. So chess.com didn't react to it. And instead of simply checking my data, I mean, not accusation, it's a very serious data, and they didn't do it. And what could I do? Because this is a very alarming. For instance, I want to tell you, maybe this we will talk later when we come back to this tragic incident which happened, to the tragic death of Daniel, and I will explain you, for instance, one of the points of my I would say I was wondering about, which is very obvious to anyone. You don't need to be a chess player for it, but again and again, nothing was done. Nothing, not even a reaction. And so now, very late, because we lost a brilliant person, very young player, and it's a very late, unfortunately, but too late, I would say, but at least now we can do it, maybe. Yeah? But it was not my fault. I was not hiding away. I was always responsible for my words, and I always can prove my words.
Vladimir Kramnik, a former world champion, a legend who once stood at the very top, has spoken out again. And what he said? It's shaking the entire community. He claims, "It's not my fault." Those 4 words have now become the most debated phrase in chess, not because of what they mean on the surface, but because of what they imply. Think about it. A man once praised for his calm, logical mind now finds himself defending his role in one of the darkest chapters modern chess has seen, the tragic death of GM Daniel Naroditsky. Kramnik insists he never personally attacked Daniel. He says he never accused him directly of cheating, and that whatever happened wasn't on him. But hearing that, after everything that's unfolded, it doesn't sit right with a lot of people, because context matters. And the context here, it's heavy. Just days before Kramnik's statement, the world learned that Daniel Naroditsky, a player loved for his insight, his calm presence, and his endless positivity, had passed away at only 29. According to reports, he was found by 2 close friends, Alexander Bortnik and Peter Gianados, after what seemed like an endless streaming session. He'd been live for hours, pushing through fatigue, frustration, and emotional strain. Something fans noticed unfolding in real time. Those who watched said you could feel the tension building. His tone shifted. His energy faded. It wasn't the usual cheerful, thoughtful Naroditsky that everyone knew. His friends even told him to take a break. But he wanted to keep going. Maybe to prove something, maybe to escape something. We'll never really know. And by morning, he was gone. The news broke the internet. Tributes poured in, from fans, from students, from grandmasters. Even people outside the chess world stopped and paid attention. But along with the sadness came something else. Anger, a quiet, growing frustration that eventually turned into outrage. Because just months earlier, Kramnik had been one of the loudest voices online, raising accusations about cheating in chess. And many of his posts and insinuations had pointed toward Daniel. Now, whether you believe Kramnik meant harm or not, here's what's undeniable. When someone with his status, a former world champion, says your name in connection with cheating, it changes everything. He didn't need to post proof. He didn't even have to say Daniel cheated. Just the implication was enough. Suddenly, the chess community, especially online, began to whisper. Doubt started creeping in. Daniel, who'd spent years earning trust by teaching, streaming, and bringing chess to life for a new generation, suddenly found his name tangled in a mess he never asked for. And here's where things get complicated. Kramnik's mission, at least in his eyes, was noble. He said he wanted to protect the game, to expose the growing problem of online cheating. And sure, it's a real issue, but when that crusade turns personal, when it starts targeting real people without clear evidence, that's when it crosses a line. Daniel didn't just play chess, he taught it. He inspired beginners. He showed people that chess could be kind, calm, and human. To see that reputation questioned, especially by someone as influential as Kramnik, broke something deep inside the community. And now, after Daniel's passing, Kramnik's words, "It's not my fault," ring louder than ever. Maybe he's right in a technical sense. Maybe he didn't cause what happened. But the conversation now isn't about guilt or blame. It's about responsibility. Because when you're a legend, when your voice carries that kind of weight, your words matter. Even when you don't mean them to. Especially then. And that's the part that so many people are struggling with. Kramnik stood for chess greatness. But in trying to defend the purity of the game, he may have forgotten the people inside it, their emotions, their limits, their humanity. It's a painful reminder that in today's online world, influence can be a double-edged sword. One tweet, one implication, one careless accusation, and someone's entire life can change. The chess world isn't just mourning Daniel Naroditsky's passing, it's mourning the loss of empathy, the kind that used to hold this community together. And as Kramnik continues to defend his words, the real question remains. Not whether it was his fault, but whether it ever should have come to this in the first place. It's crazy how something as small as a rumor, a passing comment, a single post, can grow into something that completely consumes someone's life. That's really all it takes. One seed of doubt. And that's what happened to Daniel Naroditsky. A few vague comments from a legend like Vladimir Kramnik, no hard evidence, just subtle implications, were enough to shift how people saw Daniel. Over time, that tiny spark turned into a storm. Fans started questioning him. Strangers debated him. And slowly, the weight of defending himself against whispers he didn't deserve began to show. Daniel never stopped addressing it. He spoke publicly, denied any wrongdoing, and tried to stay calm through it all. But you could tell it was eating at him. The confidence that once made his streams feel alive, the smile that drew people in, the joy that made chess fun again. It all started fading. Friends noticed the change first. He wasn't as talkative. He stopped cracking as many jokes. His usual spark, gone. It's the kind of change you can't fake or hide. And now, hearing Kramnik say, "It's not my fault," it hits hard, like reopening a wound that never even had time to heal. Let's be real for a second. Imagine someone you admired, someone respected around the world, suddenly starts questioning your honesty in front of millions of people. How would that feel? How long could you carry that weight before it started breaking you down? You can say, "It's not my fault," all you want. But when your voice has that kind of power, when your words can shape the story everyone believes, don't you have some responsibility for what happens next? Even Magnus Carlsen, the reigning world champion, a guy who usually avoids drama, couldn't stay quiet. After Daniel's death, Magnus spoke up. He condemned how the whole thing was handled. He said Daniel didn't deserve the hate, didn't deserve the public suspicion, and that the entire situation spiraled way beyond what anyone could have imagined. And Magnus wasn't alone. Players, fans, coaches all started speaking up. They weren't just sad, they were angry. Angry that a campaign meant to protect the game had somehow turned into one that destroyed a person's peace. Because Daniel wasn't just a grandmaster with trophies on a shelf. He was the guy who made chess feel human. The teacher who stayed after lessons to help beginners fix their mistakes. The voice who made people feel welcome in a game that can sometimes feel intimidating. That's what made him special. His kindness, not just his skill. He wasn't chasing fame. He wasn't loud or arrogant. He just loved the game. And now that's what makes this whole story so painful. So when Kramnik comes out saying he feels no guilt, that it's not on him, it's no surprise the chess world is reacting with disbelief and frustration. No one's saying he caused Daniel's death directly. But let's be honest, words are powerful, especially when they come from someone with that much influence. And that's what people are talking about now. Not blame, but accountability. Because when you've got a global audience hanging on your every post, you don't get to act like your words exist in a vacuum. Right now, the chess world is standing at a crossroads. Everyone's asking the same questions. How did we get here? How did a game built on respect and logic turn into something that pushed one of its kindest players to the edge? And more importantly, how do we make sure this never happens again? Kramnik, for his part, says the whole thing has been twisted. In his interview, he insisted he never directly accused Daniel of cheating, that people took his comments out of context, that he was simply asking questions. But that explanation, it's not convincing many people. Not after everything that's happened, because it's not about the literal words anymore. It's about the pattern, the endless posts, the constant questioning, the subtle jabs that implied something was off. You can't call that just asking questions when it chips away at someone's reputation day after day. Now, in the aftermath, Kramnik says he's being unfairly painted as the villain, but to a grieving community, that defense feels hollow, like too little, too late. And maybe that's the real tragedy here, not just the loss of a brilliant player, but the reminder that in the age of social media, reputations can be destroyed without evidence, and empathy can disappear behind a keyboard. At the end of the day, Daniel Naroditsky deserved better, not just as a chess player, but as a person. And the people left behind, fans, friends, even rivals, are now left to pick up the pieces and ask the question that won't go away. When does accountability begin? And when does silence become complicity?